Welcome to
Okay.
Remo's going to love this.
Okay.
Jeez. Welcome to Decaf, a weekly podcast by the Beacon Center of Tennessee. I'm Taylor, here with Mark, who just had me so annoyed right before we started because he can't figure out scarves.
I've never worn a scarf before. It's not my fault.
We're wearing scarves is because this is National School Choice Week. We'll talk about it in a second, but one of the really notable things about National School Choice Week is everything is yellow, and kids come to state capitol buildings all over the country in their yellow scarves, and so we are proud to support that.
One more thing. My dad has always had this huge issue with men who wear scarves. He thinks it's awful. He hates it.
Okay, so we were watching a old, early 2000s movie with my friends the other night, and we saw a man in a scarf, and our whole group text after that night became sending pictures of men wearing scarves and looking so stupid.
So most guys look stupid in scarves,
Yeah.
right? Not all, but most.
Not all,
yes.
but most.
Me for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of look like
Yes.
Ron Weasley.
Thank you.
Okay. On to our actual podcast topics. So sad news for everyone this weekend about the Kobe Bryant tragic death of him and his daughter. And there have been people on Twitter, of course, everyone is mourning because it was such a tragedy. All 9 people on the helicopter. So surprising. Yeah. Children, parents, people leaving kids behind. And, a lot of people on Twitter are saying, what's the big deal? People die every day. And A, that's insensitive.
I know. It's unbelievable.
It's very insensitive. But B, I think that the big deal is that, obviously everyone has been touched by someone's death, but when it's a notable figure like this, someone who's so in the spotlight and someone who and the circumstances around it are so tragic, it kind of reminds you that life is so short.
That's right.
And I think that's a lot of the things, Ellen talked about it, Jimmy Fallon talked about it, life really is so short, and he would have never, he wasn't sick, nothing was going on. It's tragic, just like when Princess Diana got in that accident. No, you don't see it coming, and when you don't see it coming, it's just terrifying.
And what's I think is interesting is that when people are complaining people die every day, of course that's true, but this is somebody who is known by everybody. That's the whole reason it's news. It's not because his life's more important than anybody else who died or anything like that. It's just that everyone knows who he is, and for a guy who's 41 years old, and again, there was 3 or 4 young girls who were killed, which is devastating.
Yes, children.
I'm going to, I think, a girls' basketball game.
Just an everyday occurrence.
It was just sad, and it makes you think too, because if you've had somebody close to you pass, when they pass, it makes you think about things, and that's this was another situation that I don't know Kobe, but it's oh God, you're right. I really
is so short.
I need to think more about the stuff that I do and tell people that I love them more, and make sure that you live your best life while you're here.
Exactly. I think I always do that, and I never follow through, but I always think when something like this happens, I'm like, man, I'm going to go and I'm going to live really big, and I'm going to do all this. I mean, I planned a trip for this weekend after that. I'm always I'm going to do it really big, and then in a few weeks it kind of fades away.
It's just another reminder, of course.
Right.
Every time that happens.
Bored with it, but
bored with being a better person.
Bored with living a great life. But I do, and I'm like, I'm too tired. I don't want to do this today. Oh, I don't want to tell that person what I've wanted to tell them. Oh, I don't want to, I don't want to embarrass myself. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And this is just kind of a reminder to do that.
And let me take the last 30 seconds here to go on a little bit of a rant. The news media should be absolutely embarrassed for how they handled this. They had 4 wrong reports. TMZ reported it before.
So
Kobe's knew it. ABC was saying that all 4 of his daughters were on board. CBS, they were saying Rick Fox was on board.
Rick Fox thing.
This is why nobody trusts the media. Because
that's so true.
They report this BS. None of it was true. And how are they going to tell people who, right-wing people, trust us, we're the news? No, this was all, you want to get the story out first. You don't care if it's true or not. And it was embarrassing. Anyone involved with that should all be fired.
Yeah, I agree.
And
it
you
was
should,
so bad.
I like the media generally. I don't trust it. After this kind of thing, how do you trust that?
You can't play with the circumstances surrounding something.
Well, everyone did. And reporting fake things. It's not even like they reported something too soon. They lied. They were reporting falsehoods.
Straight up not true.
And you want to talk about how Trump lies all the time, and you want to report every falsehood you possibly can about this thing.
Agreed.
You have to be consistent.
You have to be consistent. I agree with that. Another thing that we can bash the media about is
perfect. Media bashing.
It is School Choice Week. I think it's interesting that there are people on both sides of the aisle that appreciate school choice. Just the other day, Representative DeBerry from Memphis got
a Democrat from
Memphis got the Champions of School Choice award from a bunch of us groups who appreciate school choice and work hard for it. Yeah. And I think I was actually talking to someone in our office, and we were talking about how school choice should kind of just be a litmus test for a lot of politicians. you should be in favor of doing whatever is necessary to give children the best educational opportunities they can possibly have. And that's what School Choice Week is about recognizing people who've worked hard for it, but also bring it to the national attention that kids and parents should have a choice, and you shouldn't be zoned for a school that and locked into a school because of a zip code. And arbitrary.
And a lot of Democrats who are running for president were previously for school choice until they needed money from unions, and then they changed their mind because the unions are for that. But why don't you? So we have a minute 45 left in the segment. Why don't you explain? Because I think it's important that people actually understand what school choice means. Because there's a lot of different ways. Why don't we talk about it?
Yeah. So school choice essentially means putting the power in parents' hands as to where their children go to school. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. Currently in most states, a lot of states don't have school choice programs at all. Tennessee instituted an education savings account program last year, which is a form of school choice that was one of the first. We're one of the first states to do something, and even ours is very limited. But
to simplify it, it's more like the money that the taxpayers actually
the money that I pay to the state should be up to me to choose where my kids go into school. Like, I should be able to
that money should follow the kid, and it's not a system. And that's the thing is that everyone against this is arguing for systems and adults, and they don't seem to be concerned about kids. The idea that people in Nashville and Memphis can say, you know what, I'm really happy that my kid's going to fail in school. They're not, and they don't have a choice.
And we have to put the caveat out there that yes, there are a lot of educational systems in all the states that are not doing so great, not doing so hot, and this is not a be-all, end-all solution for fixing the education problems in Tennessee. However, I mean, it is going to take a holistic approach, truly, but when you're paying into the system, you should be able to dictate how that money is spent, especially when it concerns your children.
And we're already paying, I mean, the taxpayers, and some of the people who would be most affected don't pay tax, or they don't pay very much in taxes. But look, we're already spending, say, $10,000 for your kid. You should be able to send them to a better school.
If you want to.
You have that money, you should have the option. And maybe you're super happy with your public school, and that's great. Stay there.
We are pro-public school. We're pro-good education, period.
And it's and it's a weird thing where you have, like, the minority, especially the black community, is really on board with us, but it's kind of like most so the union-loving liberal politicians who are against this practice. I don't understand it. I don't get it at all. You can't make a good argument to me about why school choice is a bad thing.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about, we ran out of time, but I was going to talk about Billie Eilish and how, she just
Who's a singer.
She's a singer. She's a very famous singer. She just swept the Grammy Awards last weekend, and she and her brother were both homeschooled their entire lives.
And proud of it.
And they're huge proponents of homeschooling because it gave her an opportunity to pursue music and pursue something she's talented in while still getting a great education. Talk about something that puts the opportunity in parents and students' hands. So
Absolutely.
Pro School Choice, Go School Choice Week. We've just had a great week this week. The next thing I want to talk about, oh my gosh, okay, so we're really hating on the media and I'm loving it.
Wait, real quick, before we do it, I gotta get back. The Washington Post did a great editorial about pro school choice. So it's not all the media, some even on the left like school choice. So continue hating on the media
shout
now.
Out to Washington
I want to give them one shout out
right.
since we're actually trashing the rest of them. Let's one shout out.
So let's trash CNN for a second.
Perfect.
So I kind of have thick skin when it comes to the media. I usually roll my eyes and thumbs down people's Facebook things or whatever. I actually got really ticked off yesterday because on Don Lemon's show, he had Rick Wilson and some other guy's name I can't remember, and they were making fun of Trump voters.
Yeah. And Trump himself.
And they were making fun of Trump voters and using Southern accents to do it, and just saying that all
and
Trump,
really dumb comments.
Yes,
he's like they couldn't find Ukraine.
They couldn't find Ukraine on the map if it had a U and a picture of a crane on it.
That's right. Yeah.
And I just think that, and I'm going to risk going on a rant here, but I think that the media is really screwing itself. Like, they're doing themselves in with a lot of people by alienating folks. Don Lemon sat there and laughed his head off.
He thought it was the funniest thing he's ever seen.
And then he came out today and said, I didn't hear everything that happened. And
that's why you were laughing hysterically the whole time, because you didn't hear what happened.
Exactly. He gave the most weak apology. It wasn't really even an apology. He was more like qualifying what he did. And I don't know. I could say so many things about this, but I think the main thing is you can't just make fun of people just because they don't agree with your political views. And you can't do that.
One of the best comments on Twitter I saw, which, I mean, and I think it was actually Ivanka Trump that did it. She was like, look, you keep talking about how our country's so divided, and like, that's a big point. And then you're saying these things to actually help divide the country even more. It's like, look, nobody's talking about Trump being, I don't think, a uniter in a lot of ways, but you are trying to divide people. Like, a lot of people who voted for Trump didn't necessarily like him, and they said, you know what,
Yes.
he's just the better of two options. Some people do like him, some people hate him. None of these people are necessarily bad people.
No.
And this idea that everyone who voted for Trump's stupid, or everyone who voted Democrat's an idiot, like it's just
or
not
that
true.
everyone from the South voted for Trump and is therefore a hick, or that it really got on my nerves. The Southern accent thing, I think that's what really riled me up the most, was that they were just making
and saying
fun
the
of
dumbest
people.
things about, like, oh, they're like the elites and that we're all dumb.
Yeah,
It's like,
this one guy goes, "You elites and your geography," talking about how Southern people and rednecks don't know where Ukraine is. So what if they don't? Everybody has the same right to vote. Everyone, I have a thick Southern accent. No one would argue against that. I am a conservative as much as the day is long. Like, no one's going to argue with these things. But I would never say anything like that about someone that I do view as a self-important elite, and I don't want people to talk about me that way.
Yeah, I think it's unfair. And I mean, I think that everyone has kind of come out against us, though, except for the extreme left. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah, it was in very poor taste.
Including Democrats. So, like, no, that's not cool to do that. Like, that's not okay.
It was in incredibly poor taste, and Rick Wilson has doubled down on Twitter, and it's just kind of frustrating.
But a lot of people say, like, this is why you want to know why people hate the media. This is your 45-second clip of why.
Yes, period, point blank. This is why people hate the media. The last thing we're going to talk about is Mark and I are going to trivia tonight with his girlfriend and a few of our other friends. And I know what you're thinking. Yes, Mark does have a girlfriend, and yes, he does have friends. Shockingly enough.
The friends thing, I mean, I'm paying them, but they are still coming.
I mean,
and the
he
girlfriend,
is
I'm
my
paying her
boss.
a lot. Yes.
Oh my
you have to
gosh,
go.
I
That's
have to
part
go.
of her job
Part of my
security.
goals. Yeah. But we love trivia, and I think this whole office, I would say, we kind of love things like that. Like,
And we've played trivia together before.
we played trivia
on a
together
weird double
before.
date, but yeah.
It was a really weird double date. And I actually went and played trivia last night. Came in 5th place out of 10, which I will say was not
very
that
average.
bad.
Average.
It was
Yeah,
really
yeah,
average.
right in the middle.
But tonight is office trivia.
The show The Office.
The show The Office, not the Beacon Office.
Yeah.
I absolutely love things like this. I grew up watching Jeopardy. Actually, a woman who used to work with my dad saw my mom a few months ago for the first time in years, and came up to her and said, "Aren't you Carol Dawson?" Mom said yes, and she's like, "Don't you have a daughter who loves Jeopardy?" And y'all, I had not watched Jeopardy in my dad's office since I was maybe 6 years old, but I used to sit in front of the TV and watch it. So this is kind of right up my
It's weird
alley.
you don't know more, but
Shut up, gosh.
you were not great at our last trivia.
I was not great at the
I
last
wasn't.
trivia.
I mean, here's the problem: there's so many questions that you're like, I literally have no idea. Like, oh, I don't know this weird thing about some distant planet. Like, I don't know, how many moons Pluto. Like, and I'm not that people do know them, but like, I feel like they should really stick to like pop culture, sports.
I know.
And I'd be great.
Last night
History,
there were a
maybe.
few that I just had absolutely no idea about. We were asked to put things in order from like largest to smallest, and the things that we're asked to put in order were like the number of, or the number in millions of miles that the Mercury is from the sun.
Oh my God! Like, who's gonna know that? Yeah.
How many years someone, I don't even remember who it was, played in the NFL. Like, it was just the craziest thing.
I know, like, they ask these questions, and
that.
I'm worried because like we both watch The Office and we both really like it. I'm worried that the question would be like, and we probably watch it. I watch it 3 or 4 times. You probably done the same.
Yeah, I played Office Trivia last week, and it was crazy stuff. Like, what did Kevin text the people in the office when Robert California took the right side of the list out to lunch?
What was the answer?
Suck it, losers. And I got it.
Kevin was on the right
side. I
side.
got it. Kevin said, "Suck it, losers." But it was really difficult stuff. But Mark came up with a great name for us. If you watch The Office, you'll recognize this name. Our team name is going to be called Voodoo Mama Juju.
Yes.
Which, if you've seen the episode where they're talking about downsizing and closing the Scranton branch, and Michael plays the Murder in Savannah game, that's where it came from. But we are really excited.
And we need to report back how we actually did.
We will.
I don't think we're going to do well. That's my opinion. I think we're going to come in like bottom 25%.
What I think is going to happen is that Mark and I are going to get in a huge fight, and we're going to be screaming at each other in public.
That would happen either way. The trivia is really a very small part of that.
I just don't know if you're like, I hesitate to use the word arrogance. Maybe it's confidence is going to
we'll go
outweigh
confidence.
your actual knowledge.
I'm pretty good at like not knowing something. Like, no, I have no idea. Don't ask me. But every once in a while, I'm very confident on an answer that's not right, and I will force you to do it. But usually, I was decent the first time we played. Better than you, for sure.
Yeah, well, I was also nervous because I was on a blind date with you and your girlfriend, and I did not like that. I was
Is that what
not
happened?
feeling
You're
like
nervous?
myself.
You just don't know answers?
I was concentrating on not being weird, and that's really hard for me.
You need to concentrate better at work
really
for that.
hard for me. Shut up. This is what I get all the time. I had one good zinger joke, and now he's just like burying me with insults. We are going to end this right here. We'll see you next week, and we'll let you know how we did. Have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.